Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. We have got some fantastic questions for you today. We're going to jump to them in just a moment. But before we do, you know the score, folks. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment down below using the word Kendo so that we can get the YouTube Ninja Robots out to work to get people starting Kendo, okay? We've already got 350 gazillion people start Kendo since last week just by doing this. I'm trying to double that by this afternoon, okay? You have to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. It has to use the word Kendo, okay? What a great Kendo video, best Kendo video ever. Something like that, all right? So that the Ninja Robots know to get people to start Kendo, all right? Don't want everybody starting like snooker or something, okay? Nothing wrong with snooker, but it's not as good as Kendo. So that's that. Before we take the next step and leap head first into these questions, you know what I'm going to say. Shop at kendostar.com. Okay, that's how you support this channel if you like the content that I put out. All you have to do, it's a win-win, is shop at kendostar.com. It's the best Kendo equipment website in the history and future of the human race. Now, of course, I would say that as I own the place, but it's true. You know it's true. We all know it's true. Everybody agrees with us, all right? You're going to shop with us in the end anyway, okay? So don't buy twice, buy right, first time round, and shop at kendostar.com. Okay, let's get to these questions. Hello, Andy Sensei. Congratulations on receiving 7th Dan in Kendo. Thank you very much. This is probably going to be a little bit of a pattern for a while. I want to ask you how Sasoi differs from Seme. After all, in both cases, we provoke the opponent. I'm now preparing to pass the exam for 4th Dan, and I'm told that I need to not just hit, but create a moment with Seme. But if I do Sasoi, also causing a reaction from the opponent, will this affect the grade? So Sasoi and Kendo are different. Sasoi and Seme are different. Okay. Time for Andy's underqualified Japanese classes. Totally not qualified to talk about Japanese language, but here we go. So Sasoi, Sasoi, Seme. Okay, these are the two words. Okay, now these are both not Kendo. They're not Kendo words. They're actually words that are in everyday Japanese life. Okay, and Sasoi means to invite. Okay, if you were to invite someone to your house, you would use this word Sasoi in that case. Okay, Seme in this case means to assail. Or I guess like kind of, I don't know. I don't think attack is that. You could say attack. Is it attack a good word for it? Kind of. Let me check the old dictionary on if that's one of the listed words. Yeah, it says attack, offense, assault, barrage. There we go. All right. But I think that it's often thought of as assail. Okay. So in a Kendo sense, they're kind of connected, but they're not the same thing. Okay. So there's like, so Seme, the way I think of Seme is, I think you have to use Seme to get Sasoi to be effective. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. So, my sort of thoughts on this would be Kamae, Seme, Sasoi, if we're going to use Sasoi, and how fine are we going to get this? Maybe Okori and Datote. This is probably overcomplicating it. It depends on what level you're at. But if you're going for 4th Dan, probably you don't need to worry about this part yet. But I've written it now, so I'm gonna have to explain it. So this is kind of a little bit of a flow chart of an example of how a strike could happen. All right, it's not how it always happens, but how it could happen in a good sense. And if you carry this out, you know, I think you should be successful in a grading of high levels. So I think the Sasoi is I was gonna say it's kind of optional, but I'm not sure it is. The more I think about it. So let's go for it, right? Kamae. Okay, so we all know kamae, but it doesn't just mean holding the shinai. It migamae and kigamae. Okay, the migamae is the kamae of the body. Kigamae is the kamae of the spirit. Okay. I tell you what. There's another one. There's another step in this we're gonna add. Where does it go? Where does it go? I'm going to put with seme and tame, because they're kind of together. Yeah, I guess they go kind of together. Okay, so seme is the approach to the person. Tame, you can't have seme without tame, really. So tame is the ability to perform on your intentions, act on your intentions. Okay, without rushing, okay, and being in control of your emotions and your body and being ready to go. Okay, so tame means to build up. Okay, so it means to be that coiled spring. Okay, then in that once you have the kamae, I guess tame comes before seme, doesn't it? Now I've explained it that way. Okay, well this is a fun game, isn't it? So okay, so have your kamae, tame, yeah. I'm ready for this. Let's go. Okay, and then you start to approach. You start to assail. Okay, you start to see how the other side is going to interact with you. Okay. Oh God, I could keep adding words to this. We're gonna leave that. We're not gonna complicate this further. There's like offshoots to this, but anyway. So there's your tame and then your seme, and then if you've got this right, then that seme is going to have some kind of effect on the other person, all right? And then they're going to respond in some way, all right? And the best way is if you can get them to respond by using this idea of sasoi, okay? So up to this point, you have to have developed... I'm going to write it in. This isn't like this isn't 100% of every single, you know, occurrence in kendo, but this is like an example of a good way of it playing out. Okay, so there's aiki here as well. This is where that yours and your partner's ki start to interact. Okay, interact. So it's not just completely from my own point of view. Yeah, I start to try to figure out what's going on their side. Yeah, then I try to influence their actions. Okay, now that we've got to this point with sasoi, and that could be a lot of different things. All right, now on a basic level, which is what I've been doing up to now, like it's quite basic. It's quite like I've made it as and I think it's sort of standard up to where I'm at this point. It's kind of an aggressive sort of thing, and then there's this kind of tension. It's like a you know, like a this sort of pressure cooker that's ready to explode. Yeah, and then bam, and then they're gonna react. Okay. And that's the sasoi. It invites some sort of action from them. Bam, bam, and that's where I take debana or kaishu, whatever, because the okori, excuse me, okori is the moment they decide to strike. Okay, and that's influenced by this sasoi. Okay, so this sasoi causes their okori. It causes them to react. Okay. And then the datotsu is the strike. Okay, so as I say, I've only done this on a basic level up to now. Okay, and I feel like going forward, like I have to start to understand this more more than on just a superficial level, which is where I've been sort of, you know, involved in it up to now. So I think there's different ways that this can play out, especially there's like different patterns of this sasoi, for example. Well, that's something that I need to sort of work on from now, I guess. So I don't know. But what I do know is up to now, this sort of pattern or something like it is pretty effective. Okay. But what you said, if I do sasoi or also causing a reaction from the opponent, does it affect the grade? It will affect the grade in a positive way, because you can't do the sasoi without the semi and the aiki. All right? Not really. Okay? Not effectively, I don't think. I guess you probably could, but, you know. The important part, the important key ones here, right, for fourth dan, are these first four. Definitely. All right? I think the most important one is this aiki. Aiki. Okay. I think once you start getting into fourth dan and upwards, this is what you have to start thinking about. And then that can't come without this. Does that make sense? Right? What happens after that, there's lots of different patterns I expect, but this has to be a focus, I think, for fourth dan upwards. I think. Next question. That's a nice easy one to start with. David Sensei, my son has a tactic where on the moment of hearing Hajime, he jumps up from the Shiai tactic, he jumps up from the Caesar and goes for Nukido. He recently had a comment that he has to get into standing Kamae first. Is it allowed for him to directly go for Do, or does he have to get into basic standing Chudan Kamae first and then get started? I understand it can be frowned upon going for such a rapid point, but well, youth. Thank you, and P.S. looking forward very, very much to my custom door order from Kendo-san. Good. Thank you very much for choosing us. There's nothing to say whatsoever that you have to be in a stood up Chudan no Kamae position to initiate a strike. Okay, there's nothing about that at all. All right. You know, it's not an uncommon tactic or you know, it's something that it is something that people do, especially when they're young. So I don't think it's a problem. It's not. You can't. I don't think it's a valid reason to say no. It's not valid because he hadn't stood up yet. Doesn't say that clearly anywhere, to be honest. If the strike is delivered with Kentai no Ichi, it depends how old he is, of course, but I don't see that as a valid reason to brush that strike off if he does it well. Super hard though. Okay, next one. Hi Andy, I have a few I would like to ask. Okay, one, when's the best time to replace the heel protectors? I noticed that the pads are considerably thinner through normal use, wear and tear. Whilst I'm trying to improve my Humikomi, I feel like the protectors don't always last quite as long as I expected. I bought mine roughly about 6 months ago. Two, I competed in a Shiai just last weekend. It was my first Shiai in about 2 years, and I didn't feel much nerves going into it, but I felt I was moving way too much, which made my kendo look quite frantic. What are some things you'd suggest that can help, either from your own experience or others? Lastly, in the spirit of Kendo rant, I'd like to hear you rant about anything in current Kendo today which grind your gears. Oh God, don't get me started. Right, so one, what's the best time to replace heel protectors? I think you just have to use your own judgment on that in terms of how much they're still protecting you and if they're still in a serviceable state. It depends how much you practice as well. So I can't really say whether 6 months is a short time or a long time. It depends on, the sort of usage of them, doesn't it? But if they're not protecting you properly anymore, then yeah, you need a replacement. I don't use a heel pad personally if I can help it, unless the floor is particularly hard. But I have in the past, especially when I was a bit younger and a lot younger, and when I lived in Japan and practiced a lot when I was still sort of actively competing, then yeah, I'd probably only get a couple of months out of a heel pad, to be honest. Because I had to wear one, because I was practicing so much, it was starting to, but yeah, I think my daughter goes through them probably 6 months or so is about right for her, I guess. But then she's practicing a lot. In terms of the Shiai that you practicing, I mean, I think if you don't feel like you were nervous, then maybe you actually were, but you didn't necessarily notice it. I think that's a possibility. But even if not, I think you just have to try to focus on, even when the match has started, to keep in control of your movements and your actions. You know what I'm saying? Try not to get too wrapped up in the moment or the emotions of the Shiai, and try to keep your wits about you. I think what a lot of people tend to get caught up in Shiai is that people often slip into the habit of trying to get a point or 2 points as fast as they possibly can, and that's not necessarily required. You don't need to. It's not a race to get the point. All right. I understand in a team match, there is a time limit, and perhaps getting 2 points is necessary for the result of the team, but it doesn't have to be done in the first 10 seconds or as soon as absolutely possible. What I often recommend people do is try to use the whole time of the Shiai wisely, so that you can. I like to advise people, especially once they've reached a certain level, to spend the first 15, 20, or even 30 seconds of the Shiai gathering information rather than making attacks. So that you can formulate a plan of how to go forward and conduct the Shiai following that. But that depends, of course. But yeah, I'd sort of give that a go. In terms of what about current Kendo today grinds my gears? There's a lot of stuff. I think one of the ones, I'll let's keep it relevant, all right? Because we've been talking about. There's two things, right? There's one is people who do Kendo or Shiai with no responsibility. And when I say no responsibility, they have no sense of responsibility for what they're doing. So you see it a lot in Shiai, where they have no care or regard for whether what they're doing is either correct or safe. Because Kendo's not just battling, even at like, so for example, this you even see this at the highest, not the highest, but the very high level of Shiai, let's say international tournaments, okay? And frankly, and I'm sorry if this is going to upset some people if I say this, but that's what this show's about, I guess. But there's a difference in what you see often in European championships, or world championships or other international events like that, versus what you see at the top echelons of Shiai in Japan, and also even, let's say, the world championships, the Japanese team, especially the men's team, but not only the men's team, some of the things that they do, it's not gentle. All right, we can agree it's not gentle, right? Because it's a Shinken Shobu, it's a real match they have to win. All right, but it's not irresponsible. There's a line where they draw where it's not irresponsible. Now, let's separate the All Japan Police Championships, because that does get irresponsible, if I'm honest with you. Though in recent years, it's not been too bad from what I've seen. I don't follow it closely. Yes, it's not necessarily gentle, but it's not irresponsible. And I think that lots of people, and probably myself as well, when I was playing at that sort of in that sphere, misunderstood it to be anything goes, or almost no, it doesn't matter. It's a Shia. There's no friends in it or something like that, and it's not right. It's not right. It should be serious. Doesn't mean it has to be gentle, but it still has to be responsible. I think that's a really, really important thing, and it kind of grinds my gears when you see these players sort of just like recklessly, massively bowling people over and doing stuff that's just unnecessary. If that makes sense. So don't like that. And then secondly is I don't like, and I'm saying this is relevant because obviously, I recently passed the 7th Dan exam. I don't want to make this video about me passing the 7th Dan. I don't want to keep going on about that, but obviously it's a recent thing that happened. I don't like grade worship, to be honest. Yeah, of course, passing the Dan gradings is not easy. It's a difficult task. But I don't like it when people get to what they consider a high grade, let's say 7th Dan, and then believe that they've mastered it or act as if they've mastered it. And I hope that I don't come across that way. I'm quite keen not to. My goal of this channel is to share my knowledge and to share my experience. But I'll say right from the start, I might be wrong about a lot of stuff. I don't know everything, and what I think now, and I've said this lots of times on the channel, what I think now might be different in 5 years' time, or different to what I thought 5 years ago. So, but I don't like when people wield, and unfortunately I've seen it a lot, where people will wield sort of a rank in Kendall to act inappropriately. Now that doesn't mean that I don't believe that respect shouldn't be shown to to seniors or to senseis. I do think that, definitely, but I think that I think it's important for those who hold those grades to act appropriately and to understand where they are in the real world. Like I say, I mean, so achieving the 7th Dan has been a great ambition of mine. It's not the end, of course. There's still one more to go, and I don't see it as the end at all. I see it as the beginning, actually, and I don't like it when, how can I say, like, I don't like to. I don't want to sound like, oh, well, in Japan this, in Japan that, but it's true. The dojo I practice in Japan, like, everybody's 7th Dan. Or the sensei's at Hachidan, but everyone else is like 7th Dan or 6th Dan. It's like normal. It's not, so it doesn't, I'm just saying that I don't think that being X Dan means that automatically, just because you exist in an area where Kendo isn't very popular, it doesn't suddenly grant you the. It's a difficult paradox, because I say I do believe in acting respectfully to your seniors, but I don't think it should be based purely on a number, such as a Dan grade. I don't like how people's attitude changes sometimes when they achieve a certain grade. Well, there we go. Next, when are you coming to Melbourne for Marks or Marguerite? You asked me this last week, right? With different thing, right? It's not that this is like the 4th time you've asked this now. Get an email in and we can sort it out, all right? Someone needs to email me, all right? I can't just go. I have no, on the basis of a Facebook comment, right? Hello. First, massive congratulations on passing grazing. Thank you very much. But both of you, I'm assuming, worked hard for... yes, we did work very hard. My wife and I worked very hard to achieve that. So it's wonderful to see results. Thank you very much. An inspiration to all of us. Thank you very much. Now the question, this is the important part. I realise that now you have quite a lot of contacts in Japan and all over the world, but when you were here before your world domination, how did you go about contacting dojos to partake in their practice? I'd like to do more Degeko, but I'm nervous about asking for fear of potentially offending people, etc. I know where to search for dojos, of course, but in your experience, how did you approach asking to join practice at dojos you just did not know? It may sound silly, but I'm not very comfortable contacting senseis who are, one, much older than I am, and two, much a higher grade. The Japanese communication is not an issue, FYI. Okay, so what you're saying is you're in Japan and you want to be able to practice more at different places. It's not as hard as you might think, all right? I understand that you're worried about getting in touch with people, especially that are older and a higher grade. But I guarantee they'll be open. Well, I can't guarantee, but I'm sure they will be open and friendly and happy to practice kendo with you. Okay, in my experience, that's what people are like. Now, when I first moved to Japan, I started practicing at a dojo that was a kind of introduction from a person that I knew here in the UK. But I had to change dojos because it was a very long way away from where I actually lived. And instead, there was another dojo that was very close by. So I believe, I can't remember, this is a long time ago now. I think when I changed that dojo, I just went there. I just went there on the practice day, and I didn't. I don't think I took my Borgo on the first day I went there. I just went there and just showed my face, and I just tried to see if there was somebody who was like the point of contact. But I couldn't speak Japanese very well. Now, if I could speak Japanese better, I'd have just phoned them. All right. But I didn't speak Japanese very well. So I just showed my face there. I think that's what I did. Yeah, I did. I just showed my face there and said, look, I'm practicing at this other dojo, but it's really far from where I live. This dojo is much closer. I think I was fourth dan. I have fourth dan, so I have the experience of kendo. I'm not a beginner, you know. Could I please move to this dojo instead? And they were, yeah, sure, no problem. And they even contacted the other dojo because I couldn't speak Japanese very well, didn't fully understand the process. So they spoke to the other dojo, made sure that there was no bad blood there, of course. And that was that. It was all fine. And then there was other places. This is in Kyoto, by the way. So there's the Butokuden, which had open practices, and I just turned up to those. And it, you know, it's surprising how much you can do by just turning up. I moved to Kumamoto a few years later. When I moved to Kumamoto, I just went on the Kumamoto Kendo Federation website, and I saw that there was a summer practice happening at the Budokan, and it was like I arrived there on the Friday and this happened on the Saturday, so I was like, I'm gonna just go. So I just turned up with my Borga and I just walked in with my Borga, and obviously the first thing that happened was there was a guy stood at the door who I didn't know at the time, but was like a really important Hanshi Hachidan sensei, but I didn't know who he was, and he was like, what do you want? And I was like, I could speak better Japanese at this point a little bit. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I've seen that there's a practice today. I do practice kendo as well. Am I all right to join in? And he was like, yeah, okay, like that. And I just made sure that later, once the practice started, and I noticed that the fella that met me at the door was also the sensei. I just made sure I went to him for practice. And yeah, and they were super welcoming, super fine about it. What else did I do? There was lots of places. I had quite a broad network in Kumamoto, to be fair. I had practice in my company. I had practice at a local dojo. My kids started doing kendo, so I was practicing at their dojo as well. I have friends that were high school teachers, so I was practicing at their high schools. Lots of stuff like that. And I just sort of built connections that way, I guess. Then when we moved to Fukuoka, the school where my kids went, they had like the local kendo club used the school as the dojo in the evening, so we ended up joining that dojo straight away, and then from that I actually was luckily invited to practice at the local high school, and then one of the other senseis that came to that club, he practiced at another. He was quite involved in practicing at different places. So I just asked him if there was other places I could practice. I just asked people in the dojos I was going to, do you know if there's anywhere else I can practice or something like that? So yeah. But you know, if I was to do it now, I'd literally, if I found out about a place, I'd just go along. Now, granted, all right, now to preface this, now it's a funny story actually, because it reminds me, a few months ago, back in November, I was in Tokyo for a few days and decided to take my Borgo with me. Now, I do not have a network in Tokyo. I spent like 90%, maybe 70% of my time in Japan in Kyushu, all right? So I don't know, like Kanto is like just not my territory also. I knew nobody there, and I was kind of there on a bit of the down low. I wasn't really on there as a, like, you know, I didn't tell a lot of people I was going there. So I went there and I'd heard about a practice that was happening at this specific place, and I'd wanted to practice while I was there because I knew I had my grading coming up. So I just took my Borgo and I just went there. I just went in, and then I just thought, well, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, sorry, no, you're not allowed to practice with us. Now, granted, I'm in a privileged position, all right? I mean, I accept that because I can walk into a dojo like that in a random part of Japan that's, you know, I've never met anyone there before, which this was. And when I walk in, and this is in November, and it's even more the case now, I expect. And I don't know what your situation is, of course, all right? But obviously, first of all, when I go in my Borgo and I say, I'd like to join the kendo practice, the first thing they're going to do is make a judgment on my appearance, right? That I'm a white Westerner. They're going to be like, okay, what sort of experience are you going to have? And the first thing they're going to do is ask what sort of experience I have. And they usually do that. And it's one of the rare cases in Japan where they ask what Dan grade I am. And as soon as I turn around and I say I'm 6th Dan, or now be able to say I'm 7th Dan, they're like, oh yeah, please join him. Right? So, because they know that I'm not like a total beginner. Okay? But I think even if you were like saying you were 2nd Dan or 3rd Dan or something like that, what they want to know is that you're not like, oh, well, I've never done it before, but I've just bought this kit from the shop round the corner. I'd like to have a go. That's what they want to know. You know what I'm saying? So it's fine. They'll be welcoming. Nobody's going to go. Here's the thing. You said, I know you say you're not comfortable. It doesn't sound silly because I understand it's not easy, right? But trust me, you know, you say you're nervous about asking for the fear of potentially offending people. Trust me, I really do not think anybody is going to be like, who the hell is this guy? Asking to come and do kendo with us? Who the hell does he think is? Nobody's going to be like that. Nobody's going to be offended. Nobody. All right? The worst you'll get is like, well, how much experience have you got? All right? And if you've got Shodan or above, they'll be fine with you. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. All right? Most people doing kendo want other people to do kendo and would like to practice kendo with other people as well. All right? So I really would encourage you to just do it. Okay, last one, but it's got 2 parts. Right, let's have a look. It says, 1, I got my Sandan exam this summer. a few months ago, I was on a training camp and some people told me I definitely have to get a new Borger for my exam. My Borger is now 17 years old. It's used and faded, but it's maintained super carefully, not tattered and not broken. Parts on the edges of men or tatted because I repair it when any kind of bigger problems occur because I love it and I want to keep it a long time. The people that told me are second, third or fourth dan themselves and are not part of any kind of grading panel. I asked 2 7th dan in my country, one on a grading panel regularly and the second Japanese. They both told me it absolutely doesn't matter as long as it's not broken, good to use and worn properly. In the next weeks, I'll have to ask the panel leader for the grading itself to get feedback. But right now, I'm still a little unsure, and I wanted to ask your view on this. It's often some over-mystified, more Japanese than Japanese people think. What do you think? Okay, let's deal with this question first, and then we'll go to number 2. Okay. Are you required to get a new Borger for your grading? No. Does your Borger have to be brand new? Can it not be faded? Can it not be repaired? You know, all this sort of stuff. No, that's not true. That's not really what they're looking at. What matters is that it is in a good state of repair and that it is worn properly. Now, if it's faded, it doesn't look good. If it's super faded, you should at least attempt to re-dye it, which can be done. So it's definitely not a requirement, okay? Definitely not a requirement. You definitely don't need to have a brand new Borger. In fact, like if you have a brand new Borger, it's kind of opposite look in a way. And the same goes to the uniform. But we're talking about 3rd dan, so I don't think it's much of an issue. The thing is I understand that you're saying that the Borger is maintained well, it's not tattered and not broken and stuff like that. Other people, though, have come to you and said, I think you might need a new Borger. So there are other people that do sort of notice that it doesn't look in the shape that they might expect someone going for a grading would have it. Now, as I said, I'm going to be really clear. I don't think it's something that needs to be looked at. What matters is, more importantly, is if it's worn correctly. All right? Are the hemo the right length? Are they tied properly? Is it worn properly? And is it looked after properly? Is it in a good state of repair? I think that's more important. Is it better to present a smart and dignified appearance at your grading? Yes, it is. And that becomes especially important for higher grades. Okay? For higher grades. Now, it becomes more important for that. Now, I don't think you need to have a brand new Borger for any grade, all right? Now, for my recent grading, my Borger wasn't brand new. It's about a year old, all right? Now, I haven't used it a lot, granted, because I was saving it for the exam. Well, I wanted to make sure it didn't get too battered for the exam, all right? Now, I'm in a privileged position once again in the fact that obviously I own a Kendall company, so it's a bit different in terms of my access to Kendall Borger. Having said that, the All Japan Kendall Federation, after each grading they do in Japan, the head grading panelist always writes a report on the grading and it's published on their website, okay? And this is something I've obviously taken interest in over the last few months for 6th and 7th dan gradings that they've held in Japan. And one of the points that's consistent is that it was mentioned that people needed to improve their chakuso, the way they're wearing the Borger and stuff, and they should, I think one of the things that was mentioned is like the very faded Hakama and Kendogi, all right? So it's not good to present a grading. And now look, at 3rd dan, I don't think it's a big deal, but if you're going to start looking at like 4th dan, 5th dan and up, then I don't think it's a good idea to be trying those gradings in Kendogians and Hakamas that are super duper faded. You should at least re-dye them so that they look a little bit smarter. So yeah, you don't need a new Borger to pass the grading. Is it better to have a Borger that looks smart and not old and battered? Yes, it is. It doesn't affect the result, I don't think, overall. At least it's not one of the key points that you are examined on. But it can influence the whole, like, the presence, the aura, the dignity of your kendo in overall, all right? But that's something that's more looked at later grades anyway, all right? So for third dan, probably not too much. Okay, last one. Congrats on my 7th dan, by the way. Thank you very much. I'm sure your trainer had a big part of your life to get to this point. Well, that's an interesting thing. My question is, if you were to reset, going back into your 20s or whenever you started kendo, what would you change in the beginning? What do you wish you had focused on more in the beginning? And also, what would be the perfect training would you attend for the first 1 or 2 years if you restarted your kendo career? Like every progressed skill, we are stumbled over endless mistakes that we did or were taught in the beginning. What would you focus on and avoid from your point of view from now on, except no excessive kata training? Thanks, in Chocolate Kendo Star. Okay, so a very large part of my success in my recent grading is thanks to the teachers that have been kind enough to help and teach me. If I was to go back to when I started kendo, which is when I was 19 years old, though, and with the knowledge that I have now, or if I was to teach myself at that age, and in a way it's similar to what I've done with my own kids. I would focus more on Ashisabaki. I would focus much more on Ashisabaki, training myself to have the faster Hikitsuke, left foot. And to use my hips to strike, that's connected, rather than just trying to hit the shinai. And I mean, it's not something I would train, but if I was teaching myself now, I would humble myself more, because I thought I was so good. When I was like 24 to 26, I thought I was so good. Before I went to Japan, and everyone, like, you know, beat me up. And I was like winning stuff in Europe and stuff, and I thought I was super good, and I wasn't. Like, and I go back and watch those videos and myself in those days, and I cringe about it. I thought I was so good, and I was, you know, I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought that the older senseis didn't know what they were talking about, because I could hit them whenever I wanted. You know, these sort of things. I had no respect, and I had no humility. I don't know. Maybe that's normal for kids of that age, eh? I think it is kind of normal, but, like, you know, it happens a lot to youngsters in their early 20s that they have a small taste of success. They often get a little bit above their station, eh? And I was certainly no different. But look, if we're getting back to training, Ashisabaki and Oikomi, I just hammer Oikomi. I'd try and, if I could go back to 19-year-old me, I'd just spend 10 years just hammering Oikomi and Kakarigeko, of course, because it's such a valuable exercise. And there we go. That's it. Now I wouldn't waste a load of time doing kata. Kata's important, but it's not as important as some of them would have you believe. Right, there we go. We're at the end. Thank you very much for joining me today. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, shop at Kendo Star, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.